Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're cutting straight through the marketing fluff, skipping past those endless online debates, and ignoring the noise to uncover the true data-backed reality of electric vehicles. If you've been wanting to move beyond the flashy headlines and actually understand what happens to your wallet and your peace of mind when you switch from a combustion engine to battery power, well, you are absolutely in the right place. Let's kick things off with a massive paradigm shift. Think about it. For over a century, the cost of moving from point A to point B was dictated to us by one single, constantly fluctuating number on a petrol station sign. But transitioning to an EV, that changes the very nature of the expense. Moving from the pump to the plug means you're taking an external, uncontrollable cost and turning it into a manageable, personal choice. It's really no longer about what's the price of fuel today. It's all about choosing your energy source. All right, let's dive into our first section, the new EV economics, and what this means for your wallet. We're going to jump straight into the massive financial variables of this new landscape, because understanding where your energy comes from is literally the key to unlocking savings that traditional gas cars just can't touch. Looking at the data for the cost to drive 100 kilometers, the spectrum is staggering. On one end, if you're charging up from your own solar panels, you're looking at just 90 cents. Using a home wall box on a cheaper night tariff, that's a highly manageable €3.30. But now, compare that to our petrol baseline of €11.94. And here's the catch. Look at the bottom line. If you're relying entirely on high-speed public DC fast chargers, your cost skyrockets to €12. That matches or even exceeds the cost of petrol. The takeaway here is crystal clear. EVs are an absolute financial cheat code if you can charge at home. But they can become a serious, costly trap if you depend entirely on public highway infrastructure. So where is the financial sweet spot for an EV owner? Well, to offset that higher initial sticker price, you have to look at the amortization threshold. The data shows you really need to be driving a minimum of 12,000 to 15,000 kilometers a year, primarily using that cheap home or solar charging we just talked about. But wait, don't forget the hidden administrative perks. We're talking about a 20 to 30% discount on auto insurance, and depending on where you live, you might even get a total exemption from the ownership tax, like the BOLO. Stack all of these together and your monthly carrying cost actually drops dramatically. Moving right along to Section 2, the reliability reality check. Let's talk about your peace of mind. Okay, so the wallet math makes sense under the right conditions, but what happens when we go from the driveway to the mechanic's workshop? Let's explore the engineering paradoxes that dictate long-term ownership. The core driver of an EV's reliability comes down to something we can call the anatomy of less. Think about traditional internal combustion engines. They require incredibly complex, high-stress components just to function. Friction-based clutches, timing belts that can snap, multi-phase gearboxes, the constant degradation of engine oil. It's a lot. By simply stripping away that high-stress combustion process, the EV architecture inherently eliminates the most common, catastrophic mechanical failure modes you've probably dreaded dealing with at the shop. And this mechanical simplicity brings us to one of my absolute favorite Trojan horse facts of EV ownership. It's the concept of freni protetti, or protected brakes. See, because an electric motor can literally run in reverse to act as a generator, slowing the car down while recapturing energy, the physical brake discs and pads are shielded from the extreme high-temperature friction that destroys them in a normal car. The electric motor is doing the heavy lifting. The result? The physical brakes on an EV barely wear out, which drives your routine maintenance costs down by an incredible 40 to 50%. Now, we aren't just going to rely on mechanical theory here. We need hard data. To truly understand EV reliability, we turn to the 2024 ADAC report. Germany's famous Yellow Angels analyzed a massive 3.6 million real-world roadside assistance interventions. Honestly, this is the most rigorous statistical baseline available for vehicles in the 2 to 4 year age bracket. And the results of that massive study? They're definitive. Internal combustion vehicles suffered 9.4 breakdowns per 1,000 vehicles. Electric vehicles? Only 3.8. The math doesn't lie. EVs are 2.5 times less likely to suffer a critical mission failure than thermal cars of the exact same age. Having fewer moving parts quite literally translates into superior uptime on the road. Which brings us to Section 3, and frankly, the most fascinating twist in this whole story, the 12-volt battery paradox. You see, as with all great technological leaps, there's always a catch. While those massive high-voltage propulsion systems are incredibly robust, the most advanced 800-volt vehicles in the world are currently being brought to their knees by, well, completely ancient technology. Even with massive traction battery packs powering the wheels, over half, 50.5% to exact, of all EV breakdowns are caused by the failure of a tiny 19th century lead-acid surface battery. It's the exact same battery architecture used in gas cars, and right now it remains the absolute Achilles heel of the modern electric vehicle. So why on earth does this happen? Well, think of your EV like a smartphone that's desperately, constantly searching for a Wi-Fi signal. Modern EVs exist in this state of permanent expectancy. Even when the car is parked and turned off, there are continuous electronic wake-ups, triggered by your smartphone apps or over-the-air updates that keep the vehicle's computers drawing power. This connectivity tax slowly but surely drains that small 12-volt battery. And here is the kicker. If that tiny 12-volt battery dies, the car physically cannot close the electrical contactors to access the massive propulsion battery. Your incredibly advanced, expensive vehicle is effectively bricked by a dead flashlight battery. Crazy, right? All right, let's move into our final section, engineering maturity and city cars. Here's the thing. While the fundamental EV architecture of fewer moving parts is absolutely sound, the specific engineering maturity of the manufacturer completely dictates how well these electronic stressors are handled in the real world. Not all EVs are engineered equally. The ADAC data starkly contrasts the Tesla Model 3 against the Hyundai Ioniq 5. The Tesla, which represents a highly mature, native electric architecture, boasts an incredibly low 0.5 failures per 1,000 vehicles. On the flip side, the Hyundai Ioniq 5 struggled with 22.4 failures per 1,000. Why such a gap? Well, the Hyundai was largely vulnerable to a specific defect in its Integrated Charging Control Unit, or ICCU. This just goes to show the profound danger of a single point of failure in power electronics. A beautifully simple electric motor means nothing if the power management software and hardware aren't mature yet. And these engineering hurdles also scale right down to more affordable, entry-level city cars like the Panda Electrica or the BYD Dolphin. Now, you get some amazing benefits with these, like LFP battery chemistry, which is super stable and highly resistant to daily charging wear. But there are trade-offs to hit that lower price point. You often get simplistic, passive air cooling rather than advanced liquid heat pumps, which makes the battery much more sensitive to weather. They also tend to use physically smaller 12-volt batteries to save on space, making them even more vulnerable to being drained by smart features, not to mention occasional early software bugs that need over-the-air updates to patch. So, how do we actually synthesize all this data into something you can use? The sources basically point to 3 golden rules of EV reliability to help you diagnose a vehicle's long-term viability before you ever sign the papers. First up, mechanical elimination. Ensure it's a native EV platform that truly ditches all those legacy mechanical parts. Second, active 12V management. Does the car have a system to actively top up that vulnerable 12-volt battery from the main pack while it's parked? And third, thermal and chemical maturity. You really want to look for stable LFP chemistries paired with active thermal management if you want maximum durability over the years. Which leaves us with one final provocative thought to chew on. Armed with the real data on home charging economics, the beautiful elimination of mechanical friction, and the quirky paradox of the 12-volt battery, you now have the tools to look right past the marketing fluff. The technology is undeniably superior in its simplicity, but it does require a mature approach to both the vehicle's engineering and your own daily charging habits. So what's it going to be? Will your next journey be driven by the explosions of combustion or the silent efficiency of chemistry? Thank you so much for joining us on this explainer today to dig into the data and form a truly accurate understanding of this incredible shift in human mobility. Until next time, stay curious.